Coach joins us this morning on the Harbor One hotline. Bill, good morning.
Hey, Greg, how's it going?
It's going great. How are you today?
Good. Yeah, ready to roll.
Well, same
Good
here.
opportunity for us to get better this week, and we're looking forward to having another productive week.
Listen, your affinity for radio interviews is renowned, so I, for one, am delighted that you're going to be joining us this season.
Yeah, well, it's good to be on early, start the day. Some good energy here, so yeah, good to go.
Yeah, high energy on the program. I'm often criticized for my energy. Maybe you could give me some motivational words later on.
Okay.
And of course, Wiggy. You're very familiar with Jermaine Wiggins and his career here.
Yeah, absolutely. Jermaine was a big part of the Super Bowl 36 championship season, and he had a lot to do with our success, especially there at the end. Local boy makes good.
I mean,
there you go.
Georgia, back to the Patriots.
I mean, so. You're such a historian when it comes to the game. Do you think he has any chance at all at Canton? Or
I'm sure he's in Canton,
yeah.
Like all the other players are that have played in the league, and his contributions to the league are noted in Canton as everyone's are. So the Hall of Fame does a good job of that. They recognize all the players that have played, no matter when they played or how long they played or where they played, going all the way back to the start of professional football in the 20s. So yeah, everybody's there.
So my picture is there. It's just not a bus, but there is a picture somewhere. You got to look.
Definitely there. It's definitely there. They have you go on their system and you can look up literally every player who's ever played in the National Football League. I think they might even have it. I don't know if they have all preseason or not, but they might. But they have every player that's ever played. So, like my dad. My dad played for a half a year in 1941, and and there he is, in the team picture and his stats and all that. So it's pretty amazing what they have. So yeah, every player's in Canton.
have you been there?
Been to where, Canton?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there 2 weeks ago.
No.
Yeah,
Right, no.
I've been there probably, I don't know, I went there when I was a kid. Certainly went there when I was with the Browns. We did a lot of functions there, and we took our team there a couple of years ago when we played the Lions. We stopped there, and the whole team went through the Hall of Fame. So yeah, I've been there. Probably I don't know, 15, 20 times, and every trip's a great one, and I've seen it grow. It's grown from like one little kind of building to, it truly is a hall with a stadium that's redone and the field that's been redone, and it's pretty impressive place. It really is. So, anybody that likes football, that's the place to go.
Wanted to ask you, Bill, about this preseason and one less game, and are you approaching it differently?
Well, we'll see how the whole game thing goes. The first two have been kind of like the first two. I'd say the biggest difference and the biggest change for us has been the way that it started. We had 4 padded practices before our first preseason game, and as Wiggy will tell you, that's not the way it's been, or probably the way he's ever prepared for a season, or any other player is prepared for a season. So the number of padded practices and the preparation for the season is a lot. The preseason is a lot different than what it's been. That's been the biggest change, as to how to acclimate our team and work on the padded fundamentals that we need to work on with limited practice time. Now those days and practices are starting to add up now, as we move into the preseason and play preseason games and so forth. So the numbers are starting to pick up. But I'd say the challenging part for all teams, not just us, but all teams, was the start of training camp, the first 2 weeks and that first game. So now we're kind of into a normal, semi-normal type of flow, and then we'll see about the last. We have 2 weeks left in training camp, just like we do like we've had in the past. It's just that the week after the Giants game is now a bye week instead of a fourth preseason game. So that's I would say relatively minor adjustment there.
Bill, you talk about like the change of preseason. I remember when I came into the league in '99, when we were down in New York with the Jets, and it seemed like it was 4 weeks of training camp style. And guys are constantly competing for different roles, whether it's starter jobs or backup roles. What are some of the things now you have to do as far as evaluating players to make the decision on, who potentially is going to start, who's going to be a backup, or some of the roles, because preseason and mini training camp has changed so differently, since you've been doing this game for so many years.
Yeah, exactly. You hit it on the head, and it's honestly just less opportunity to evaluate. So you look at what you can look at, but relative to, as you said, when you played, or even going back to, when I came into the league in '75 and in the '80s with the Giants and all that, just the number of practices, the opportunities were so much greater than what they are now in terms of like playing real football. When we're in shorts and all that, that's decent training for the receivers and the DBs and all that. I mean, their job is they can work on a lot of things they work on in terms of leverage and route running and coverage and those type of things. But for the front seven on defense and the tight ends and backs, it's a little different. So the opportunities are limited. You just have less information to work with. You still have to make the same decisions. You can still evaluate the learning and the mental part of it and all that, but it's just the actual football part of it where there's fewer chances and we all remember when we started doing anything. When you first start doing it, you're not as good at it, and then once you get some experience and gain some confidence, your level of execution goes a lot higher. So sometimes with younger players, or even players who aren't young but maybe are new to the system, doing things differently sometimes, it takes a little while to gain that confidence and experience to do it well. And as a coach, you just have to decide, is this player, he doesn't really have it yet, but he's going to get it, or he doesn't have it and he's not going to get it. And with back to what you were talking about, back to 20 practices before the first game and things like that, you had a lot better idea of how guys were going to perform with those extra evaluation days. But it is what it is. So we'll do with it what we can. Same thing the other 31 teams are doing.
Bill, when it comes to Cam and you look at last season, I feel like sometimes media didn't give him the credit he deserved during an unprecedented season. When you look at him now, we all see improvements, but as a coach, what's been his biggest improvement from last season to this season?
First of all, offensively, we have a much better balanced team than we had certainly at this time last year. We'll see how it all plays out, but we've added some players that bring an explosive element to our offense that we really didn't have last year. But anytime players in the second year of a system, especially last year when there were no preseason games, there was no spring. It was a much different way to learn the system and get experience in it. Just the process this year has been better from that standpoint, and also the fact that it's the second year, that's helped a lot. So I think you see that with the players that were new to the team last year, and certainly the rookies from last year, the jump that they've made this year with a full spring, with a season under their belt. They've all made a lot of progress, and Cam's way more comfortable in the offense and more comfortable with the players around him because he's had more of an opportunity to play with them.
I think looking at it from the outside, some of us have looked at you and said, oh, maybe last season Bill was kind of a different kind of a guy. Is that you molding your personality to certain players on this team, or is that you mellowing with age, or do you feel like you're the same Bill Belichick that you've always been?
Well, I think I try to do the same thing every year, and that's to find the best role for me to play, the best way for me to coach to help our team. I mean, my job is to help the team as much as I can. So whatever that is, it is. Every year is different. Every situation is different. But the decisions I make are based on what I feel like, will help the team the most. And that could be, I've been involved in offense, defense, special teams in different years and different, what's called percentages, or the involvement's been different from year to year. With certain players, it changes with the overall structure of our staff and what the needs are. Where I feel like I can help the team the most, that's what I try to do. So I think every year is always going to be different. But at the same time, in my mind, they're all the same because I want to try to find the way that I can help the team the most, and whatever that is. So that's always going to stay the same. What it actually is or isn't, that could change. So that's how I look at it.
Bill, I think a lot of people out there, they don't realize how important training camp off season is. So when you look at last year versus this year, where you didn't have that, this year's off season, this year's training camp, controlling a lot of situations you're able to put in as a coach. I think a lot of people don't realize how guys can make a complete 180 what they look like last year, because now they have kind of what's as close as being back to normal as possible. How have you seen guys handling this year, as well as you as a coach, knowing that you're kind of getting back to as close to a normal training camp as you had in the past?
Well, yeah, I think, the way you articulate it is, exactly the way it is. Guys that have more, look, when you have more opportunity to do something, hear the play, run the play, see what's on the other side of the ball, react to it. It's just everything is better. You react quicker, you see it quicker, you make better decisions, you anticipate better, you're more familiar with what your teammates are doing and how they'll react and how that may affect what you do. And it's just, the more you do it and the faster you do it, then and the more prepared you are for, games when that's the way it happens. So, I think that the level has certainly gone up. Now, it's still different than what it was, let's call it in 19, when, the training cycle was a little bit different. And, even this year in OTAs, it took us really 2 weeks of OTAs to actually get to OTAs because the players needed to, we needed to build their training and their individual fundamentals up so we could really benefit from full, off-season team practices. But, it's somewhere between where it was last year and where it was in 19. So we're somewhere in the middle there. But those are all very valuable. And again, when a player has confidence and knows what he's doing and is confident in what he's doing, and is confident in his teammates around him, the level of execution becomes much higher. And when you don't have those, then there's that level of, I'm not sure, or not as aggressive, or a little tentative about either what to do or, how it's going to play out. And so those are all things that you try to, iron out with practice repetitions and stringing training camp days together is to gain that confidence and experience and trust in each other that we're all going to do the right thing and we can aggressively go about our job, knowing that the guy beside us is going to do the same thing.
We've talked a lot on the show, and we've heard you say it before, that during preseason, you look at how different players perform, but you also look at who they're going up against during that performance. Where do you put more weight? And is it how they perform in these games, or is it who they are facing?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's really the, that's the hard part. I'd say that's where, joint practices and things like that help, because you just get so many more plays against different people. So I think our first day in Philadelphia, we had like 75 snaps of, one-on-one pass rush and one-on-one pass protection. And so those 75 snaps were obviously all against different players than we've seen in our own training camps going against each other. So, and so sometimes a good player is matched up against a lesser player. Sometimes a lesser player is matched up against a good player, and so forth and so on. And, some guys are fast, some guys are quick, some guys are strong, some guys are experienced, some guys have little, kind of are savvy and have a different element to their game. And so just all that's good. And again, I think when you look at it, it's, a little bit like a jigsaw puzzle or mosaic. You have a lot of pieces. It's not just one thing, one play, one thing that happens. It's the composite of all of it, and it's the composite of the player's progress. So where they are when they started is relevant, but where they are, 2, 3, 4 weeks into the process really tells you a lot too. Like, are we making progress? Are we staying the same? Are we leveling off? Are we maybe actually getting passed up by other players who are moving faster than a certain player is? And, and so that progress actually looks like a little bit like a regression in a way. And, I think, again, Jermaine as a player can really speak to this, that, sometimes it takes you a little while to get that confidence, to really get that understanding, and then it just takes off. And then honestly, with some players, it never really takes off. It just kind of, it gets a little better, but it never really, totally clicks. Some guys it clicks the second year. Some guys it clicks maybe the third week. Some guys it clicks the third year. It just, there's not really necessarily a straight line pattern of development. But I think what you're looking for as a training camp as a coach is improvement. And if the player's working hard and he's in condition and he's trying to take the coaching that you're giving him, then he's going to improve. And then you got to try to project like where that's going to be. Is that going to, at what level is that going to be? Is it going to be maybe better than a guy who's ahead of him now? Or will he never really reach that player? Will it take too long for him to reach that player? That's really, a next year's conversation. And so, and that's, those are all the, so who a guy, a guy could look good, but if he's going against somebody that, you say, well, what, probably any player in that situation would have looked good against that particular matchup. How much weight do you really want to put on that? That's, those are some things that you kind of need to talk about.
Bill, you said a couple times that Cam Newton is your starter. What do you have to see, and when do you have to see it for that opinion to change?
Well, I think that the fact that Cam started last year and he's here, somebody's going to have to play better than him. I mean, we're not just going to, take a job and say, okay, here, this is, gift wrapped for somebody, But training camp is all about competition, and it doesn't, there's an element to who the starter is, but there's also a competition, and in the end, the competition is going to decide how things go in any given year. And I think everybody on the team is really in the same boat. It's no different. Like, the player's name doesn't matter. It's whatever you did last year is okay, great, whether it was good or it wasn't so good. This is a new year. This is a new opportunity, and each one of us has to establish our level of performance this year, no matter what position we play. Head coach, position coach, offensive player, defensive player, whatever it is. And then what that role becomes is what we show that we're capable of doing. So all the players that are here are being evaluated. They all have an opportunity to excel, or other players may perform better than them. I mean, we'll just have to see how that goes. I can't control any of that. But we're certainly not just going to, hand out roles to players until they earn them. And whether somebody earns that role or not is dependent upon their performance, but their consistent performance, not over, a couple plays or a real short window. It's a consistent performance. That's what training camp is for. So really, all the players, it's the same for all of them.
Can you ever see yourself platooning two quarterbacks?
It's those specific questions like that are really hard to answer. I mean, here's what I'll always say. I will always say, I'm going to do what's best for the team. I'm going to do whatever I can to help the team win. So if that's, playing a guard in the backfield, then we'll play a guard in the backfield. If it's, putting 10 defensive backs on the field, if that's what it is, then maybe we put 10 defensive backs on the field. So, I'm not going to rule out anything. If I think if something would help us win, then I would consider it. So, that's, the goal is not to, have this happen or have that happen. It's to, work through our system and ultimately do what we feel like is, best for the team. And that's at every position, in every game, all the way across the board.
Bill, you were talking to Wiggy earlier about Super Bowl 36. This season is 20 years since that title. Another key contributor to that game and that team was Tom Brady. I'm curious if you have spoken to him since he won the Super Bowl in Tampa and if you've kept in touch since his departure from New England.
Yeah, I'll keep the conversations between myself and other current and former players, private like they are. So appreciate the question, but I'm not really going to go down that road.
Yeah, the guy doesn't return my text messages either, Bill. Don't worry about it.
Bill, one of the things that you've always talked about, I remember you preached as a coach, is, do your job and you can only control the things that you can control. And when you look at the quarterback position, it's, the position on the field that, is probably the most highlighted position as far as what the media and fans want to see. You have two guys in Cam Newton and Mac Jones. It seems like they've done a really good job of just controlling what they can control, and that's their performance, how they prepare, how they get ready to play the game, and not get caught up in all who's the starter, how do you feel about this? What would you say that these two guys have been able to do when it comes to just focusing on doing their job on the football field and not letting that outside noise affect their performance?
I think they've both done an excellent job, and I think really our team's done an excellent job of that. As an entire team, we've really tried to focus on each one of us improving our performance on a daily basis, and when you can do that, collectively over a period of time, you can see, real progress, and that's really, the message for all of us is to, focus on what we have to do. Don't worry too much about what everybody else is or isn't doing. Focus on yourself and making sure that, you're in the best position that you can be in to help the team. Whether that's your conditioning, your fundamentals, your, mastery of your assignments and adjustments and things like that. Those are all things that, that we can all maximize. And then, as it fits together, it fits together. But, I think really all the players have done a good job of that. We've mixed and matched a lot of different groups and people working with each other, and that's, as you know, that's part of football. You're not always out there with the same players, and sometimes it's unexpected. If you have, an injury or something like that, you can end up playing with somebody you haven't played much with, in a long time or maybe all year, and then, your chemistry and your interaction and teamwork with that person is important. So it's, we build that in right from the beginning. So when it happens, it's, we at least have a background on it and hopefully can, make that adjustment smoothly and not get, caught up in who it is. But again, it's just working with somebody who's hopefully been doing the right things to prepare for that opportunity. And, then you and that person, now create that level of teamwork and trust.
Well, I know you got to get off to work. Before you go, though, on a personal note, I think I noticed you wearing a new ring. Are congratulations in order? Should we send a gift or anything like that?
No need to do that. So just an aura ring. Try to get me in better shape.
All right. Well, listen. We hopefully you enjoyed yourself this morning, and we'll talk to you again next week, Bill.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, it's good. Good to make the initial connection, and look forward to it next week and throughout the year.
Okay.
Thanks,
you want me to limit the Wiggy questions next week, or were you happy with Wiggy's questions the way you did them?
Love talking football with Wiggy. He's very was a very astute player and has moved on to much higher ground in his analysis, but understanding. But I mean, the great thing about him is he's seen multiple organizations and, been on good teams, been on championship teams, been on teams that weren't so good, played for, some different coaches. So he's got a great perspective on the game, and, he added a lot I enjoyed coaching him. He added a lot to our team and worked hard, got the most out of his ability. He was the most talented player we've ever had, but he, maximized what he could do and his potential, and, was tough, productive, and, honestly played his best football in the biggest games, which that's not everybody can say that. So
I appreciate that, Bill.
He's declared himself to be the greatest athlete ever born in Boston. Would you agree with that?
We did see, I actually showed it to our team. We did see Wiggy playing basketball at East Boston.
Yeah.
And, he was pretty athletic on the court. I'll say this. He was not afraid to shoot.
And he's the biggest Patriots fan of all time.
I would say he more than held his own on the basketball court. So, football, basketball, and, SEC football, NFL. That I would say that puts you in a pretty high athletic class right there. It's not everybody can say that they've competed at those levels. So
he's looking to get a new Patriots tattoo. We'll send you the drawing of it before he gets it put on his body.
Can't wait to see that one.
It's coming.
All right, Bill. Have a great week.
Okay.
We'll talk to you next month.
All right. Great. Thanks a lot.
Okay.